Can you just give our listeners and viewers an overview of how these recent decisions dealing with Iran has impacted the actual military force, starting with the Secretary of Defense and the major planners around? What are you hearing? What are your vibes regarding the decision making of those people?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's clear that it looks like everyone is scrambling. What I don't know what this initially was supposed to be, but I guarantee it wasn't supposed to be this kind of a war this long and with this much resistance. Now entering what are we 5, 6, or wherever we are. What seemed at first to be billed to us by the president as short strikes to take out key targets, take out the Ayatollah, and watch the Iranian people rise up and take it from there is not what's happening, right? So every turn of the screw, every new development is a new mission set. It's a new target list. It's a new call to orders that well goes back a long chain back to the U.S. to and all the way down from the top to the bottom, out to families. It's incredibly disruptive. It's war. It's not a short combat mission anymore. All the way to the latest, week in developments of we're getting into a blockade. I mean, these are words
we're going to get into that.
We read about in history books more than in reality.
Yes.
And here it is. So, I think when you see things like today's news, the USS George Bush is now steaming all the way around the southern tip of Africa instead of going through Yemen. That's an impact. That's a major impact.
Yes.
When you have so many naval assets being called out of the region first to go to Venezuela and now being called back to the region. And now we have a major mine sweeping and mine clearing mission suddenly. We know the military plans for everything, but there's a lot going on that they're having a plan for.
I agree, and I'm glad you brought up the George H.W. Bush. So one of the things I've been telling our viewers is do not listen to the rhetoric. Look at the movement of forces, the movement of people, the movement of resources. Yeah. What we have seen is a concentration to the CENTCOM, or United States Central Command Area of Responsibility. We have pulled air defense weaponry from Indo-PACOM, which was supposed to be the primary threat for these things. They're now being moved to the Middle East. You talk about the aircraft carriers, you're talking about, a total of 3-4 carriers being moved, rotations being rearranged. Here's the question I have. All this movement, all the ordnance, the thousands of targets that Hegseth likes to brag about, what is the strategic goal of this from the military standpoint, from the Pentagon? What are we doing this for?
Well, the strategic goal, I mean, the goals they keep listing are, denuclearization, destroy the missile capabilities, and destroy the Navy, I guess, was something that kind of came out after the fact. I think if you walk this back the last few years in history, the real goal of the conservative movement was to do more than the Biden or the Obama era Iran deal did. The Iran deal was supposed to put the handcuffs on the nuclear progress in Iran, but it did not address the missile threat from Iran or Iran funding and supplying missiles to others in the region like the Houthis. And a lot of people thought that was okay. That's a legitimate criticism of the deal, but whatever. They got a deal on the nuclear at least. You had eyes on that. You can deal with that later. So whether you agree with criticism or not, that was the thing that was left out. And however it was sold to President Trump, and I believe Rubio when he said that Netanyahu called up Trump and sold him that this is the day to fire and launch an attack. Everything else after that is something that other planners have planned or thought about for a long time, but it wasn't like the White House really had the war plan mapped out the way that it's gone. So I think that strategically in Iran that number one gives up their nuclear ambitions. Period. Let's in a perfect world, as if it looked like a Soviet U.S. treaty. They let in inspectors. They give up their missiles. They give up their warheads. They give up all interest and desire in obtaining a nuclear weapon. They probably do it in exchange for nuclear energy, which is real popular these days again. And they give up ballistic missile development and supplying and funding terrorists around the region. Now, Iran is a theological state. It is an extremist state. It's extreme Shiite against Sunnis in the region, and the history of the region as well. They're not giving that up. That's why the aircraft carrier is steaming around Africa because of the threat from the Houthis in Yemen. So if the ultimate goal was that perfect vision of Iran gives everything up and joins everything, joins in the world community, good luck.
Well, I think their point of view, and I challenge our listeners, if this was you and you have negotiated a deal with the United States, president comes in, rips it up. While you're negotiating a new deal, you get bombed with stealth bombers. Then you get told to go back and negotiate again. And as you're trying to negotiate again, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose because, like you said, Netanyahu sold them on the idea of doing this. And let's not forget, the president was very high off of the Venezuela success mission. He thought basically can be duplicated. Here's the thing that's blowing my mind about all of this, and I'm trying my damnedest not to be a deck plate sailor because that's my background in that region. But if any other nation that had nuclear ambitions had gone through this, would they not double down and triple down? I mean, they saw what happened to Gaddafi when he tried to do this and get nuclear weapons. They've seen the fact that every nuclear capable country in the world has never had this type of turmoil because of the nuclear weapon deterrent. How does the United States, even the military or whatever, back off enough so they can be trusted to even negotiate? This is why I'm freaking out about it. I'm like, I don't know anybody who's logic based would sit and say, okay, yeah, we'll trust you now, even though once, not twice in the last year, they've been bombed trying to negotiate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, used to hear a lot of generals say negotiations are how you end wars, but someone's got to do the negotiating before they get to that agreement that stops, firing. Right? It's like the old days of how many Civil War soldiers died after the war was ended,
Yes.
Revolutionary War, or all the way up to more modern times. So I don't know. I think clearly Trump thinks the biggest tool he has is just to pound them to hell, as he keeps saying. The threat of absolute annihilation to their leaders and families. And it didn't work with the first round. It didn't work with the second round of leaders. And now you're at third round. But I think as many people have pointed out, that this isn't Afghanistan, and it isn't even Iraq. Iran is a large nation. You've seen those overlay maps. I think the New York Times has a really good overlay maps of the United States. It's like from halfway to the United States to the East Coast. This is a huge nation with tens of millions of people and quite large capabilities, that are not like the things that the United States or you and your service faced in those last 20-year wars. It's different, and there's a reason why no one else has tried to do this like Trump has done this. So I don't know. I think that the hope is that the Iranian leadership will. They're going to have to take some kind of medicine and get to some point, but I don't know. I don't predict negotiations. Other than what worries me the most is that I think we have both actors in the Trump administration and his negotiators and in the Iranian regime are not credible public voices. Exactly. Right? They have not told the truth repeatedly on all sorts of issues, especially with this, especially since the war's gone on and people are out there posting. Here's all the different things, all the different ways that the White House or the Pentagon has described the war or described the effects of the fires that they've put down. And it's not true, or it's exaggerated, or what their goals are, they're exaggerating, or these timelines Trump keeps pushing on that he keeps, wiping away. I mean, do you remember how Trump and those guys went ballistic over red lines with Obama and Syria and ISIS? And it was, how dare you? If they found chemical, you should go nuts and bomb them. Trump has blown through 100 red lines in 6 weeks. I mean, so yeah. I don't know. I mean, so ultimately, I don't know. The way to answer your question, I believe, generals will say historically all wars end with some kind of negotiation, and there will be some kind of, whether negotiation has anything to do with deciding to stop firing. I don't know if that even matters.